Okay, let's look at part 1 of German modal verbs. In this first section, we're going to be looking mainly at what a modal verb is and the conjugations of them. In part 2, we'll be showing you more of the complex word order as they're used with the rest of the sentence. So, just to start out, modal verbs, really what we're talking about is helping verbs. And we're talking about some examples are I can, I want, I have to, should, allowed to. So instead of saying things like I eat, I play, I drink, these are expressing things like I can play, I want to drink, I should play, things like that. So it makes the sentence a little bit more relatable to what you would want to say. And then finally, these are used in conjunction with action verbs. Obviously, if we say I can play, can is the modal verb, play is the action verb. And it's used just like in English. These are two different verbs. Okay, so what makes modal verbs different? Essentially, it's their conjugation. Now, it is a little bit irregular from the standard way that you conjugate a verb, but you'll see along all of the modal verbs, there's a systematic approach to how to conjugate them. And second of all, what makes modal verbs different is it means that you're going to have a modal verb and an infinitive. Now you have two verbs. And we'll see how the word order changes. That's mainly in the second part of the video. The first part is going to be mainly on the conjugation of this. So let's look at the pattern for conjugating. And here I gave you a little table for the modal verb sollen. It means should. And as you see the conjugations here, we've got the singular in the first column, plural in the second column. And essentially what we need to look at here is the fact that when we're talking about modal verbs, we're really talking about how only the singular forms are going to be irregular. And it's not going to affect the plural at all, which makes it real great. Second thing that we need to look at is the fact that the first and the third person, so the first person being I, third person being he, she, or it, those are going to be the same forms. And we're already looking at it, looking at the ich form and the er, sie, es form. We see that they're conjugated a little bit different. They're normally for the er, sie, es, you have a t is a very common ending, and we don't see it here. Also, for the ich form, we normally say an e form, but we might have a tendency with the verb sollen to say ich solle with an e on the end, but that's not in fact the case, and that's pretty systematic all the way through all of these modal verbs. So let's go ahead and look at another verb, können. It means can. And we see the same thing here with ich, kann. Typically, you get an e on the end of most verbs with ich, and we don't see it here. Typically, for the er, sie, es form, we see a t at the end, and we just don't see it here either. And first and third are identical. And again, another important thing to point out, it's only with the singular that we see this irregular conjugation. And it's not only that it's different in the endings, but we see one fundamental thing that's different. And we see that for the infinitive können, all of the conjugations in the singular switch to an a. And it's real typical with these modal verbs that the vowel is going to change. And again, it's only changing in the singular. In this case, it changes from the o umlaut, or the to an a. Also notice, in the plural, we retain that o umlaut, just like the infinitive here. So plural forms are fine. They're conjugated just like any other verb. It's really the singular ones that we want to watch. And let's go ahead and look at some examples. So first, on the left-hand column, I'm going to give you the German. Ich kann die Hausaufgaben machen. And before I give you the English for what we just said, I'm going to point out a couple things. First of all, I want you to look. Where's the modal verb? And we see the modal verb, as highlighted in orange, is kann. And the second thing we need to do is find out, does it agree with the subject? like I said in past videos, verbs are conjugated according to the subject. We want to see if this does in fact line up. And in fact it does. Ich goes with kann, meaning if this was changed to, for example, du, then this would have to be kannst with st at the end. So we still do see that subject-verb agreement. Now what exactly did we say? I can do the homework, and as highlighted in orange, can would be our modal verb in English. Now it's your turn. I'm going to give you an English sentence, and I want you to work out how to say it in German. I should do the homework. First thing we want to do is identify the modal. The modal in English is should. So we need to identify what that modal is going to be in German. And we need to make sure that once we identify what that modal verb is going to be in German, we need to make sure that it's going to agree with the subject of the sentence. So here's the sentence you should have come up with. Ich soll die Hausaufgaben machen. Our helping verb, soll, highlighted in orange, and it does in fact agree with the subject. Ich soll. So what we're going to be looking at in part 2 is a little bit more than the conjugation. We're going to be looking at the word order, specifically why does the action verb come at the end of the sentence. Remember we said these are just modal verbs. I can, I want to, I have to. But what about play, eat, drink, all those action verbs? Those come at the end of the sentences. Why? We're also going to look at why the action verb at the end of the sentence is not conjugated. So that's all coming in part 2. Thanks for watching, and be sure to look at more videos and tips for learning at connecttogerman.com.